So when I first met Bernie Sanders or started following him, it was the White River Junction. They wanted to close that post office, and they sent a bunch of us up there to kind of rally around that to stop it. And he was there speaking, and he's always been a champion for the postal workers.
Yes.
There's 3 unions in the post office. There's the mail handlers, there's the clerks, and Janice is a clerk, and there's letter carriers, which Lou's a letter carrier.
Letter carrier.
We have a friendly little rivalry that we all do with those 3 unions. No, they don't. Mail handlers. But my brothers and sisters in the APWU just recently endorsed Bernie Sanders, which I think is awesome. I also go introduce Bernie Sanders at St. A's, where it's the first place that I really got to listen to him, partly because of the AFL. And I listened to him in this group with the other presidents. I think you were there and you were there, and we were like, I just thought, oh my God, this man would make the best president in the world. And he's like champion for the post office. He supports unions. He believes in our right to organize, and you know that's a very important part of our lives. And our numbers are dwindling, but he's going to support us. And, you know, and there's you and I in union, and it's you and I that are going to make him president.
Yes.
Charlene, thank you so much for that.
For
Up next, I would like to introduce to you all Kim Hayes from the American Postal Workers Union.
Thank you, Charlene, for taking half my speech. As she said, my union and the National has endorsed Bernie Sanders, and that decision was a no-brainer for the AWU. Senator Sanders has worked tirelessly on our behalf, whether working to prevent plant closures, restoring delivery standards, or introducing new sources of revenue like postal banking. He's trying to ensure a public post office for the future. The other candidates, not so much. In fact, I tried a Google search with the names of the other 2 Democratic candidates using the keywords postal plant closings and postal prices, and not a thing showed up, not one result. I grew up in a union household, and my father, after returning from World War II, like thousands of returning vets, moved to Flint, Michigan for a good-paying job in the automotive industry. The United Auto Workers Union afforded good pay and benefits, and GM employees received a fair wage in relation to the profits of the company. We were never rich, but we had a comfortable life. My dad loved the union and even served as a shop steward for several years. All of my relatives, all of my friends' parents, everyone we knew worked at the shop. I just assumed that I would follow suit, but that wasn't going to be the case. The oil crisis of the 70s and GM's undeniable greed led to the decimation of Flint. Good-paying jobs were lost to Mexico, and unemployment in Genesee County was the highest in the country. A city that once represented the American dream now offered very few options for a recent high school graduate. So I joined the Army in 1979, and after a 3-year stint, I took the postal exam. My military preference helped me land a job at the post office, and I have always been thankful for the security of belonging to the APWU. My dad passed away in '95, and though he witnessed the beginning of the decline, he would be shocked to see the all-out assault on labor unions today. The perfect storm of corporate greed and corrupt politicians has brought a barrage of propaganda against union workers by Republicans. My father worked on both George Wallace campaigns. His political beliefs were very conservative, but he would be aghast to hear today's union workers maligned in the press, called thugs, and even commies by right-wing pundits. Politicians in both parties used to court the votes of unions. Now we are largely ignored, even by Democrats, except at election time. We must turn this narrative around by helping to elect the one candidate who always stands with us. Bernie Sanders has fought for all workers to have the right to bargain for good wages and benefits. He has stood with us on picket lines, and he has been there when plants close, and he has fought for us in the Senate. While other candidates pay lip service, Bernie has always walked the walk. So much is at stake at this election, and it is up to us to speak to our friends, our neighbors, and our families about Bernie Sanders. So when we go out and knock on doors today in Portsmouth, let's burn it up.
Yes.
Now, I've got one more person that I'd like to introduce, and I don't want to embarrass him, but I do want to say a few words about Rick, because he came into the office one day. I've never seen him before, never talked to him before, but he came into the office and said, "I've never volunteered for a campaign, but Bernie's my guy." And ever since then, Rick has been one of my most reliable volunteers here in Portsmouth. He's now leading a grassroots team here, and he's just as reliable as you can be. So I'd like to introduce to you all Rick Velasquez from IBEW 2320. Rick.
Good morning, everybody. Like I said, I'm a member of IBE 2320 here in New Hampshire with a phone company union, work for Fairpoint. And last year at this time, you know, I was experiencing corporate greed at its finest. We were on strike. You know, they want to get rid of the union. You know, they didn't even want, you know, people aren't worth anymore. People are expense to these corporations, you know. And that's not how it always was, you know. When I first started almost 20 years ago, you know, they were all right to us, you know. They certainly didn't want to pay us. They wanted to take away everything they could, but we still got fair contracts. But this time we went through it, and they really decimated the contract. And I found out what compromise means is that no one gets what they want, you know. But you know, we're back to work. But they certainly didn't want us to, you know. They figured, you know, we'd be out. They took away our health care after like 2 weeks. As soon as the month ended, they figured we'd come back. Came around Thanksgiving, they sent out a little emotional letter saying, you know, oh, it's a good contract, ask your neighbors, you know, thinking we'd come back. And we didn't, you know. And then they went through all the stuff, and they thought they were going to break us, you know, but they didn't. And that's because we all stood together.
Yes.
You know, out there in the cold, you know. When they brought in the replacement workers, you know, we just had to sit there and thank them for working, I guess would be a nice way to say it. We weren't very nice to them, but, you know, we did it. You know, we stood up to the corporate greed from an out-of-state company, you know, and here we are. You know, we're back to work, and thank goodness. And I don't want to have to go through that again, and the only way we're going to go through it, not have to go through that, is to have better laws, better politicians that are going to pay attention to us, because no one really paid attention to us except Bernie came down to Keene, New Hampshire, and he got on the picket line, you know, and he was there. And he's all about that. He was all about the regular people, the middle class people like I'd like to be, you know. My dad was union, just like other people said. You know, he sold Yellow Pages, and you know, we had a great life. We went on vacations and stuff, and you know, it was just, that's how I pictured the American way to be, you know. And that's what I want. I think that's what everybody in America deserves too, is to have that right to make it, you know, and to be something, and to be paid for it, and not be just treated like a number, and that you can just be easily replaced by anybody else. So, and that's why I'm here for Bernie, because he's the one that's going to do it for us. So, thanks.
Yes.
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you, Kim. Thank you, Rick. I think it's really important that we all, you know, as labor members or as people who are standing in solidarity with organized labor, that we all understand, you know, what Bernie Sanders is really standing up for, and how there's never been a candidate like Bernie Sanders in my lifetime, and certainly not in many of yours. He's really standing up for working people. And he's standing up for ordinary people in a way that can make a tangible impact on our lives. He's going to stand up for unions. He's going to stand up for working families. And that's what this country needs. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass around a script that we're going to be using